Hey everybody, it's Miss Denise here. If you guys could just go ahead and raise your hands if you can see my screen. Great, excellent. Got a big group today for this webinar. That's awesome. Let's go ahead and just, while we're waiting for some people to arrive, I wanted to show you guys some of the lamps that I got sent that were posted on Edmodo. See, Anthony C. posted this lamp here, which is really cool. It has a lot of detail. And it has, kind of those almost like ribbed or ruched style. We have this really nice lamp. Let's see who. Stephen, I see your question that you can't see my screen. I'm sorry about it. I think everyone else can. That might be on your end. Hopefully it will pop back up in a minute. All right, so I believe this is Jeremy's lamp. Oh, well, this one's Jeremy's lamp. Oops. And then we have last one here, which is Will S.'s lamp. Okay, yeah, and these are the same. Right, so this is Will's lamp. He sent it in twice. Looks very nice. And we have really different styles too. Just cool to see. I just wanted to start class just showing you guys how I designed my lamp. And what I did, once I started, see if I can pull my lamp up if I saved it. Let me see if it's saved. Nope. But I can show you here. So you start with a circle, and then you go to that center and move up the blue axis. You can see that blue dotted line. Create another circle. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And then I want to create a small shape, a small triangle is what I'm going to use. That midpoint there. There we go. I'm going to create this triangle, and I'm going to use that in the Follow Me tool. Oh, now someone else can't hear me. Sorry, guys. Can we get a poll? Raise your hand if you can hear and see my screen. Great. Let me just message back to Anthony. All right, sorry about that, guys. All right, so now that I have these two circles, I can use the Follow Me tool and try to, I have that, I chose the face as the shape and that bottom circle as the pathway. Okay, and it created this nice lampshade, if we can see that. And then to create the body of the lamp, I'm going to use the Offset tool to create that inner circle and pull down on that. All right, and that's how I made my lamp, but I really liked seeing everyone's, and it just shows how many different techniques you can use to create with this CAD software. There we go. Got the nice details there. I'm going to go ahead and put the hands down. Okay, so it's about 3:35. I want to go ahead and get started with today's lesson. Hopefully everyone is here at this point. Today we are going to be talking about groups versus components, talking about editing those and managing components, and then the component sampler and the 3D warehouse that SketchUp has available. Before we do that, we're going to go through a review. And we've covered a lot of concepts in SketchUp so far, so we have a lot to go over. And I'm going to offer you guys some challenges that we can work on in class together using some of the skills that we've learned. So if you remember the Follow Me tool, you select the shape, and then you travel along a path, and the Follow Me tool can either cut out that shape or it can build a new one. In last class, we talked about cutting openings. We used the Offset tool to create this border, and we could punch out the shape with the Push-Pull tool. And you just push in until it gets to the other border, and it knows that you just wanted that opening cut in. Yeah, we talked about that Offset tool, which creates this equally spaced border all around. And you can use that for creating, for example, for taking a box and making it walls to a room, or making almost like a frame-like effect. We created a table through subtraction, and we went through these different steps. We started with that measured offset, and we wanted to make sure everything was measured as we moved along. Right, so we gave the table dimensions so that we would know exactly how big it was, and we would know the size of each of the legs. We weren't just drawing shapes at this point. And then we did a measured offset as well so that we could determine the width of how wide these legs were going to be. We moved that line down, right, because when we punch it out, we don't want this line here. We just want the individual legs. And we moved this line down a little bit as well. We measured how long we moved that one down because we wanted the table to be thicker than the legs were wide. We used the push-pull to punch out that shape, and then we rotated our screen and repeated. All right, so that's how you we created this shape by taking a large block and almost carving the shape out. And all of our legs were very standard size. They're all like equally sized. So last lesson, we also learned about creating arctangents to smooth corners. And we can see that using that and the punch-out technique, you can actually create these smooth curves that we use when we're modeling. And so this is just an example. I kind of tried to create this body of a race car maybe. So just be clearly the beginning stages, and it would take a lot of time and modeling to create a car body. But if you see, this is the front of the car, this is the passenger part, and that's like the fins in the back. And then the tires would be down here. But to create this, I used really simple, I used a box, and then I moved down to create a ramp. I just used basic lines and shapes. And anyone could really create a car like this. Right now I don't have the edges shown, but let me pull up what I had. Right, so this is just a basic shape that I made that you guys could definitely make. I just added a window. We can go on this side so you guys don't see that. But we can use the technique of smoothing corners with those arctangents and the punch out shape, or the punch out method, to smooth the curves of my race car. So let me show you how I did that. I'm going to demonstrate first on this corner here. Oh, man. Go ahead and erase that. So if you guys remember, to create an arctangent, you use your arc tool. You select a spot on the edge where you want to start the arc, a spot where you want to finish it, and then you can see when you press the start and stop, there'll be the option where it's purple. You can either choose that one, and when you choose that one, your tangent is going to be really smooth, and when it pops up again, the curve will be purple. Let me try that again. There we go, and you can see that curve is purple. Or you can choose one where your line is not purple, but it's black, and your curve is going to actually be blue, like that. So either way, I'm going to erase that first one that we did. And so now that I have my arc that is tangent, Stephen and Anthony, I'm glad that you can both hear and see me now. Now that I have this tangent arc drawn, again, just using this arc tool and drawing my start and my finish and getting either that purple or that blue curve, I can use my push-pull tool, select that face, and punch it out. You can see it's almost like we're carving away that sharp corner. Try that again. Okay, and I'm going to select that edge there. That got left over. Sometimes you get some residue left over. Delete that. There we go. Zoom out, and you can see that instead of that sharp line, now we have a really nice and smooth curve that's more realistic to how a car would be. So we can try it down here too. Instead of having this really sharp turn down, I'm going to select my arc tool, create a stopping point. I'm going to do the purple line this time, an end point, and pull that bold until you get that purple line again. Use my push-pull tool to carve out that shape. And now we get a smooth instead of a sudden and a harsh curve. Okay, and if you guys see how much nicer that looks, I did that on most of the curves. And that's how I got, first of all, I'm just going to go to view and get rid of those edges so you can see how it looks now. I'm going to bring it back to how it looked before. That's how it looks with the sharp edges. Now I'm going to open the other race car, how it looks now with those smooth edges. And just compare those. You might not even know that this is supposed to be the front of the car. And while this one isn't perfect, and I would need to work on it more, you're definitely getting more of what appears to be the nose of a car, a smoother effect. And I did that with just the arc tangent and the punching tool. So now that you guys have seen me demonstrate this for long enough, why don't you guys try it out? We're not going to be using the race car that you guys can draw, you know, something larger like that at another point. I want you guys to you're going to try it with a cube. So go ahead, everybody pull up SketchUp. Go ahead and bring that up. We're all going to make a cube, and we're going to make a measured cube. To do that, you click to start your square, start pulling it out, and then we're going to tell it that we want our square to be 1000 by 1000 millimeters. You just type 1000, comma 1000, and hit enter. And then you use your push-pull tool, you select that square, you start pulling up, and again, type in 1000, enter. So now we have a cube. All the sides are equal. And I can again change my view, orbit, pan, zoom. All right. Give everyone a second to catch up. I do want you guys to be working along with me. Hi, Anthony. What's your question? Hey, Anthony, do you have a question?
No, I just finished the cube.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. All right, so I'm going to show you guys how to do that next step, which is select your arc. Select where on this corner that you want your arc to start. I'm going to select down here, pull it across. So you get that pink line, and then you're going to get that pink tangent. And you're going to use your push-pull tool, select that face above the tangent, and punch it out. And you get that smooth edge. So go ahead and raise your hand once you've been able to round that edge. Great. Excellent, guys. Just waiting on a few more hands. All right, awesome. Okay. So now what we're going to do, we are going to, instead of, I want to show you guys how to do a similar thing where we create that arc shape, but then we use the follow me tool instead of the push-pull tool to get this rounded effect on all of the sides. All right. But instead of having to build a whole new cube, I want you guys to just try doing edit, undo, or using Command Z or Control Z. And that's actually just a really useful tool when you're building using this CAD software, because a lot of times you'll make a little mistake and you don't want to go ahead and rebuild that whole shape. You can just undo the last step that you made. It's really handy. All right, so I still have my arc because I just undid the last step. And you could do the follow me tool, select that shape, and move your hand really carefully, or move your cursor really carefully along these lines. Now I'm going to zoom in. If you'll notice, when you pull your cursor across, your cursor might try, see where the tip of my cursor is going right now. This curved line is red. We do not want SketchUp to follow this line. We want SketchUp to follow this top straight line here. So make sure you're super careful when you're finishing that. Go ahead and finish that endpoint. And we have still this flat square and this curved corners, these curved like lips of the box, if you will. You can again Command Z to undo that. And if you Command Z another time, your arc will go away. So I want you guys to practice doing that and try out maybe different ways too of what happens if you start over here and go to the end point and have that tangent arc, and that tangent arc is going to be blue. You know it's tangent when it's either blue or purple. And then select that shape with the Follow Me tool and see what happens this way. You get a much different effect. So go ahead and try it out. Try out a few things. Once you got it to work one time, raise your hand and just keep trying different effects. Ooh. Maybe try it from midpoint to midpoint. And that midpoint is that little line, and then tangent there. So go ahead, guys. You should be trying this out now. And raise your hand once you got it to work one time, but then you can still play around with it a little bit and see the different shapes that you can make. Great, Max, I saw. Thank you for letting me know. If I get rid of those edges again, it's a very cool effect. You should just be demonstrating, waiting for everyone's hand to come up. I did double arcs and see this cool overlay. All right, I'm going to check on some people who don't have their hands up. Hi, Will. Hey, Will. Will Silander. How's it coming?
I finished the first one with one arc.
Oh, okay, great. Excellent. Just make sure and put your hand up or let me know next time. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thanks. And hey, William. How are you doing? Hey, William. You there? All right, William, if you don't have your microphone hooked up, just send me a question if you have any questions or let me know so I know not to move on. Okay. All right, guys. And so, you know, maybe in your project, you're never going to be actually rounding the edges off of a cube, but you very well might be making a smooth face of a car, or you might be making a smooth window pane. It's just important to know that just because the arc doesn't look like the most useful shape, it's actually very important to understand how to use, and you can use it for not just constructing the basic shapes, but using it in conjunction with the Follow Me or the Push-Pull tool to smooth those edges. All right. So let's keep going with the lecture. So we're going to talk today about building a sphere, about how to make a sphere. We're going to first remember this orientation. Your standard orientation is this: when you build a flat surface, the next shape that SketchUp is going to want you to build is also flat. But if you initially build, I think the initial shape in this drawing was the rectangle, instead of just doing another rectangle in that same orientation, if you build a circle down here, using the Shift key with the orientation you want, you can set the orientation, and then you can have your two shapes intersect. We're going to use that to make a sphere. We're going to start with this flat circle, set the orientation, and create this circle here, and then create 1/3 circle that is also vertical, but perpendicular to that first one. And then we're going to use the Follow Me tool, very carefully trace this outer edge as our path. Before you click the second time, you should have this checkerboard effect, and you'll have a sphere. So I want you guys to go ahead and watch me one time, and then I want you guys to try it a little bit today. You may have to just try and for homework or after class. It is a difficult shape to draw, but it's important to know how to do, and it's a good challenge for that Follow Me tool, as well as understanding the orientation, setting orientation. All right, so I'm going to start with my flat circle. So everybody be watching my screen. And I'm going to set the radius, which means half the length of the circle from the center to the edge, by typing 1000 into my screen and pressing enter. So now this radius is 1000. From that center to over here is 1000. If you look on my cursor, the little circle that surrounds that pencil is blue. And that means that any circle that I draw, that I start with that blue circle, is going to be flat, like this original circle. I can't get any other kind of circle. But if I reorient my screen a little bit, I click with the orbit and pull it upwards so that I kind of flatten out that circle there. Then I again choose my circle tool. You'll see that up here, down here I still get the blue circle, but up here I get this red circle. It's going to be an up and down circle. So I'm going to press Shift and keep holding down Shift until I'm ready to let go of it, which is not going to be for a little bit. I'm going to create this first circle. That's kind of my example circle. It's letting SketchUp know. And now, however I move my mouse, it's only going to be in this red orientation. I'm only getting this red circle. That's because Shift is still held down, and I'm telling SketchUp how to make the orientation. So select that origin as the center of my circle. Now that I've clicked once, I can let go of the Shift key and pull out this circle and select the endpoint as my endpoint and click. So now I have two circles of the equal size intersecting each other. My next step is to move around with the orbit key, use my select tool, delete that first circle, use my circle tool again. You'll see this circle is green. Press my Shift key, build my example circle, go down here and select the center. Now I can let go of my Shift key, and I have my last circle. I'm going to use that endpoint. All right, so now I have my shape, my 3-circle shape. And from this point, I'm going to use the Follow Me tool to build a sphere. So for building the sphere with the Follow Me tool, what you need to be able to do is change your view so that you get a full view of your pathway, but you can still see the face that you're going to select. So I'm selecting this face here, this gray one here, and I'm just going to very carefully, this is very challenging, it takes a lot of practice to do, move along this outer edge. You're going to see some weird shapes and colors. But you want that checkerboard. You don't want to click like this. Right now there's a mistake. You want to click when you have this whole kind of checkerboard pattern surrounding your sphere. You click and you end up with this sphere. Yeah, Elizabeth, this is a ball. I can delete this circle up here. All right, so you guys can try that out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and move this sphere. Move it along my red axis. There's red dotted lines. I'm going to create another one, and you guys can either try on your own or follow along with me here. I want you to try it, but it's okay if you can't get it at first. It's a really tricky, and I want you guys to work on it outside of class as well. So you start with this initial circle. Click the origin. You're going to pull out, and you want the radius to be 1000. And then you're going to orbit and pull down. Use your circle tool, and you'll see that green circle up there. Press the shift key. Pull that circle up. And you can I can finally let go of the shift key. I have my second circle there. And then the last step, I rotate again so you almost can't see that up and down circle. I have the red option, shift, make my example, find the center, let go of shift, find that endpoint. And then now I can see my full pathway. I select this face. Oh, it knows I want to make an endpoint. Great. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to go ahead and try this. Raise your hand if you have any questions. It's okay if you don't get to it today. I'm leaving these steps up here for you guys to see. I'll give one more minute. I can show these steps here. Raise your hand if you have any questions. This one's really tough and it's going to take some practice. All right, so the last thing that we're going to practice before we talk about groups and components again are making those pipes. So everybody back on my screen again, and hopefully you guys can work on making those spheres. a little bit later. We'll put this one over here. All right. So I'm going to make another pipe, but I'm going to make it a little differently, where I'm going to have it not just snaking on the ground, but actually moving up, almost like a water slide, so that you guys can see that. And try it out yourselves. I'm going to want you guys to try out this. And this is using the follow me, as well as the arc shape and the circle shape. So the circle is going to be our shape, and the arc is going to be our pathway. So we're going to start up here and travel down to here. And see, we have all these different dimensions, but we want to be in this plane. This one, it's definitely more difficult to see which plane you're in. It's okay if you try it the first time, you think you're in one plane and you're not in the other. But this is the shape we're going for, kind of this almost like a slide shape. It's not flat on the ground. Goes up and down. And at the top of this, I'm going to put a circle with the center as the endpoint. Let's look at that again. And you can use the follow me tool, select that shape, and push it down the edge. All right, and it creates that cool pipe effect. And you can use that with any shape. Use the arc or the line to draw the pathway, or this free, though I do not recommend it as much. One cool thing that you guys can work on, that could be difficult if you wanted to make almost like a tube slide, remember that you can create tangents that are, you can create tangents that make almost like a curlicue. So right now I am creating this, I created that tangent flat on the ground. I moved one endpoint up, and I could keep doing that. I could do that again. Oops. It's more difficult than I realized when I started. Put a circle on the edge of that, but I want this circle to be straight up and down. Or actually, just put it on there. It's getting to be a little bit of a tangent, and I do want to stick with the lesson today. But the point is that you can create these any path that you want and any shape that you want and use the follow me tool. So that's this curved shape that's curved in many dimensions, not just 2D, and ended up with this really kind of cool, funky curved structure. Right, because if you have any line or any path and any shape, you can use together with the follow me tool. Okay. All right, now we're going to review some information about groups and components. Let's jump back to this presentation. We saw this last week, that if you have two separate objects and you move one so that it touches together, they end up sticking together. It's called sticky geometry. You can make a group by highlighting either one or more objects and clicking Edit, Make Group. And once you do that, this step, then this blue box appears around them and you can't edit or change what's inside. But when you use the selection tool or the move tool, they move as one object. Making a component is really similar. You use the selection tool again and drag the blue box over to select the items you want to make into a component. You can choose just one or multiple, and then edit, make component. And they act really similarly to a group. When you click to move them, they just move as one and you can't edit them. Well, you can't edit them automatically. In order to edit them, you have to right-click with the selection tool and hit Edit Group or Edit Component. And that's where the difference comes in. So changing one group does not change its copies. However, changing one component changes all of its copies because components are instanced. They are tied to the original. This is the original group, and I edited the copy and there was no change. But the original component was changed when initially the component looked like this, but when I edited the copy, the original was changed. If you right-click on a component or a group, explode will be an option. It is not as cool or as exciting as it sounds. All that's going to do is make it so that it is no longer a component and just the individual object that it was before. You're quote-unquote uncreating that component. So I can show you guys that. Let's say we wanted to make this sphere. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. But this sphere, a component. I'm going to File, Edit, Make Component, and I would label it Sphere. I can copy and paste it. Trying to move it down. And anyway, any change that you make to it, if you rotate it, well, rotating it's not really going to make that much of a change because it is a sphere, but if you, let me see what I could do to this sphere. Make it bigger. Oh, it should make the original bigger too. Scale might be different. Let me see here. So there we go. My select tool. All right, and so these are both components. Let's try components of this rectangle because I can't think of many ways to change a sphere that we know how to do in class. So we're going to make this box a component by using the select tool and selecting it, edit, make component, box. I can copy and paste it using Control-C and Control-V. And then if I right-click to edit it, oops, it will change its copy as well, and the copy will change the original. If I, again with the select key, right-click, and explode, it just becomes a regular shape again. This is still a component though. All right, any questions so far? Kind of the next step is managing components. So there's something called your component window. And to get to it, you go into Window and you drag down to Component. And then this little window will pop up that tell you the different components that you have in your drawing. So if I go, let me open my columns. Actually, I'm going to show you guys how to make a column. Let's start with that. Because I want you guys to use columns. It's really easy. Just make a square. I'm going to make mine 1000 by 1000. Pull it up a little bit, maybe by 500. Or maybe by 250. We're going to find the middle by going from the midpoint to the midpoint. And then click Polygon. And you can see that before you click to start, the sides is going to be in the bottom right corner. You can change by pressing the number of sides. So for 4, I shot 4 and press enter. I'm changing the number of sides that it has. I want this to have a lot of different sides as a column, so I'm going to choose 18. So I typed 18. Now I click the center at that midpoint, which I can find because of that line. I'm going to erase that line because we don't need it anymore. And then I'm going to pull up my polygon. You get that nice column effect. I can even, so now I'm going to make this a component because I want to make a monument, and that's what your challenge this week is going to be. It's to make a monument that uses multiple columns. But I'm going to want all the columns to be the same height. I want them to be identical. So I'm going to highlight this whole shape, go into File, or I'm sorry, Edit, Make Component, Column. And I'm going to go into Window, Components. And when you do that, it should pop up. Oh, it should start in this In Model window, where it shows you the different components that are in your model right now. You always have Susan, who's that woman. She is always going to be in your model. She's going to be a component in your model. Even if you delete her, it's still a component option. And so this just shows you the components you already have that you can simply click and click again in your program to make another of. So it's a good idea to make components of items that you're going to be needing to use a lot. Something that you've already constructed and now you can use again in your program. You could also do this with something like an arc, if you were making a bridge that used a lot of arcs. Something like this. Then, if you made this a component, I just did that real fast. You guys can really make anything a component, but hopefully I'm going to edit, make a component. I'm going to call this one Arch. And as soon as I hit create, you'll see that Arch is now also an option in my components window. And I can use that and add more to my program. I'm in a difficult view right now. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. And then if I want to right click and edit this component, I can easily do so. And it will change all the components. One nice thing about using components is, let's say I made a sphere, and we all remember how difficult it is to make spheres. So if I'm back in this program here and I have my sphere, and I end up using it in some way that it gets connected to another object, or that it would be very difficult. Let's say I have this, shape here. It'd be very difficult for me to control and copy that sphere, or I have many different objects that I've already copied since making it. If I went ahead and made this sphere a component, I wouldn't have to. See, I have this sphere here. Anytime I needed a sphere, I could just add it in. I wouldn't have to go back, figure out a way to highlight just the sphere and not get that tower, which is going to be difficult. It would be difficult if it wasn't a component. I would be able to just go into my components manager and add another one. Again, to go into your components manager, you click Window, Components. And the components manager, you can see here, it has this house. You can click on that arrow next to the house, and some people won't actually have the little picture of the house. They'll just have a drop-down menu. And you can click Component Sampler, and that will bring you to this area where they have different things that were made by Google or by other users. The Component Sampler has all of the 2D drawings that have already been downloaded to your computer that you can use right away, like Susan or a bed, just a lot of different things. An archtop drawer. We'd be able to make this archtop door. All right, or some different really cool things. You can use the 3D warehouse, choosing like landscape. But notice that now we're using the 3D, we're using the, let me see what it's called again. The 3D warehouse, which means that the materials that we're looking at were made by other people, by SketchUp or others, and we're going to have to download them if we want to use them. All right, so it's not difficult to do. I mean, I can even type into the search bar 2D cat. It searches this 3D warehouse, and I can click on the 2D cat. You saw that little download bar come up, and I can use it in my program. This is not as important for our class, but you guys can use it in your own way. And let me explain how you would use this. You would never, ever make a program and say that you made something that you did not. If you're supposed to build a building, then every aspect of that building should be your own, including windows and doors, if that is what you're in charge of modeling. For example, if you are in charge of modeling a hospital and you want to make the outside area look nice, you want to make that outside area look nice, but you know you don't need to model the furniture because you're just going to buy furniture. You just want it to look nice and like how it will end up looking. You can add things like a bike rack and a picnic table and a pedestrian, right? Because these are things that the person that would be looking at the model will know that you didn't make, and also they're just to look nice, have it look nice and have it look believable as a space. So when you're creating your monuments, you can go ahead and you can add people in your monument space, and that would be cool. But don't add these stairs because Google made those stairs. And if you want the stairs to be part of your actual monument, you can add these stairs, but just make it clear that you didn't design them yourself. All right. We are going to, for any of our challenges, stay away from using any of really of these components, except for you can add people if you'd like. But we're going to stick with things that we designed by ourselves because we can design some really cool things. This column took no time at all, right? Hey Olivia, do you have a question?
Yes, when I try to duplicate something, I do that copy thing, but it doesn't do anything.
Oh, okay. Wait, so what are you trying to duplicate?
Well, I was just trying. Back when you told us to duplicate something, I was trying and it didn't work.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna put you on mute again. If you, well, I can keep you on unmute. Sorry about that. So if I wanted to just copy this rectangle, just use the selection key, draw a square around it, and you'll see it's blue. And you can do edit, copy, edit, paste. Try that and see if that worked.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And if you're using a Windows computer, you can use Control Copy, Control C. And if you're using a Mac, you can use Command C. All right, guys, so again, for your homework, I want you guys to build a monument that uses columns as components. So the first thing I want you to do is build a column. And let's go over really quickly how I built my column again. I had my rectangle, or my square. I'm going to make it 1000 by 1000. I found the middle by adding this line. And then I used a polygon with 18 sides. Oh, oops. First, what I have to do is pull it up a little bit. Right, and then I can use the polygon with 18 sides at that midpoint. I can delete that line since we do not need that middle line anymore. And I can pull up. Now it's going to make the column, but everyone can make theirs a little bit differently. It just definitely does not need to look like mine. And I want you guys to make it a component by selecting the whole thing once you're happy with it. Edit, make component, column. Open your components manager. You can in model, and then I want you to be able to use these columns to make a monument of some kind. Just any sort of, be like an outside monument or a statue, or just columns with a roof, just columns in a circle, whatever you want to do. All right, guys. Let me know if you have any questions or if that's not clear. Work on trying to make that sphere, if you would. If you're still having trouble with that, let me know. And I will hopefully talk to you guys soon. I'll see you on Monday. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. Bye, guys.